Hello and welcome to The Real Hernando, a podcast created to highlight our amazing local community and small businesses here in Hernando, Mississippi. I'm your host, Derek, and this episode is brought to you by Shelby Rowe Productions. Today, I'm talking with Kim Daly, owner of City Hall Cheesecake, a dessert cafe specializing in fresh-baked cheesecakes of over 100 different flavors year-round. Every day, they offer 12 to 15 flavors of fresh-baked, never-frozen cheesecake, as well as other baked goods, such as their famously soft and delicious double Doozie Cookies, parfaits, cheesecake cupcakes, coffee drinks, and more. Go to cityhallcheesecake.com for all of their information, including their menu, locations, newsletter, and how to pre-order online. City Hall Cheesecake, using its sweet treats as a vehicle to love others in a big way. Kim, thanks for having me over to your place today.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad to have you here.
Oh, this is great. For anyone that is not familiar or even is familiar with this place, we're in the back room right now, where you got Hernando up on the wall.
Yeah.
A lot of cool paintings back here.
Yeah.
Over here, you got a mural called Choose Joy.
Yep. That's our motto, Choose Joy.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you, open hours right now, too.
Sure.
We've locked off the back room, and you're letting me come here and do this with you. And I very much appreciate it because you were definitely on the top tier of the list as I wanted to meet and introduce to the community. But I don't think you need much introduction, but you'd be surprised that maybe there's a lot of people that don't know your story.
Well, of course.
So all the people I ask know you, but we're trying to reach the ones that might not know you and through your story, learn more about your store too. So
wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the podcast. It's amazing.
No worries. No problem there. It's a labor of love here. It's a little passion project, but Kim, this isn't about me. All right. This is about you.
Okay.
So we are at your Hernando location.
Yes.
Real quick, before we really dig into your story, let's quickly kind of give some information on, beyond the commercial I just read for you.
Sure.
Your different locations and what exactly it is that City Hall Cheesecake offers.
Yeah. So we have 3 locations. Our Hernando location is kind of our flagship location. It's where we do all our baking. It's where everything, the kitchen stuff happens. But we have 2 storefronts, one at Silo Square in South Haven and one in Oxford, just behind Chick-fil-A on Jackson Avenue in Oxford. And they are both just storefronts. None of the baking happens there, but we are able to serve those communities as well.
Oh, so the hub.
The hub is here.
The creation happens here.
Yes.
You can feel it in the atmosphere here.
Yes, you can smell it here too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, and I really enjoy the cupcakes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Good.
As I was reading that off, I'm like,
yes,
that's it for me. Because what's great is you can sample.
Yes, for sure. And you don't feel like a glutton because it's really just a few bites of lots of different flavors. So it's an opportunity for less shame. Yeah.
I was still a glutton. And you can still buy 6.
Yeah, you can. And you should. You should. Yeah, it's a great opportunity.
So, well, that's great. We'll get more into the business, obviously. But let's talk about Kim.
Okay.
And your upbringing, your background, and eventually what kind of led you to where you are right now. So, where are you from?
I grew up in Grenada, so I'm a Mississippi girl at heart. Landed here in DeSoto County probably about 12 years ago, working for the schools. I came in with a dream that one day I would be superintendent of DeSoto County schools, and came in as a curriculum specialist for the district, working with high school and middle school teachers. My background is education. From the time I think 3rd grade was the first time I ever thought, gosh, I want to be a teacher. I just had some great teachers along the way.
I mean, how old are you in 3rd grade? What are you, 7 years old?
Maybe 8,
Wow,
but Miss Campbell was my 3rd grade teacher, and I'm telling you, she changed my life. Like, she had a bathtub in her classroom where you could lay down and read, and she had pillows all over it, and she fostered my love of reading, and just was the kindest, most compassionate teacher. I wanted to be just like her when I grew up. And I was very fortunate to have just incredible teachers all along the way. And so just had a dream that I was going to be a teacher. And then once I kind of conquered that dream, I was like, well, what's next? What else do I want to do? And I just really thought that I would be a superintendent. And DeSoto County is one of the greatest school districts. It is the best school district in the state of Mississippi, and I would hold it up as top tier even in the South. It's just a really great school district. So I thought, well, I'll come to DeSoto County and maybe I'll be superintendent. And so that was the plan when I came to DeSoto County.
So when you were 8 years old, you said you wanted to be superintendent of DeSoto
No, I
County?
wanted to be a teacher. And I think I was in my late 20s when I decided DeSoto County was where I wanted to conquer next.
So obviously you must have studied that in college. So
I did, yeah.
So while in college, that was sort of your path.
Yeah. I've always been a kind of what's next kind of girl. Like, okay, if I do this, well, how can I do it better? What's the next step? My family would say that I'm never satisfied. I like to view it as I'm a dreamer. Like, okay, this is good, but what could be better?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my personality.
Well, that's an entrepreneurial spirit.
It is. It is on accident. Yeah, for sure.
So obviously, becoming a superintendent just wasn't in the cards, didn't happen for whatever reason. What's the story behind that change for you?
Yeah, I absolutely loved working for DeSoto County Schools. Stellar program, stellar teammates. Like, I loved it. I was very fulfilled in my job. But I am a believer in Christ, a Christ follower, church girl through and through. And I can remember in my quiet time, in the morning, reading in God's Word, particularly in the New Testament, about the life of Christ. And I remember seeing Christ's care for orphans and widows and the paralyzed, the sick, and the marginalized. And I remember realizing that nobody like that was in my life. I didn't know orphans and widows. I didn't know anybody who wasn't exactly like me, and it bothered me because my Christian life didn't look like my Christ. And I remember praying that, if God really wanted me to care about these things and wanted me to follow Christ and follow in his footsteps, then he was going to have to bring that to me, and he was going to have to change my heart. And it was one of those prayers that I prayed several times, but it was one of those prayers that I wasn't really sure was ever really going to get answered. It was kind of a Hail Mary, kind of like, oh yeah, if you want me to do this, do it, thinking I would never really have to do that.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, throwing it out there, God, if you want it, but you don't have to want it. I'm totally satisfied. And not too long after that, it was about probably February, and it was one of those weird years in Mississippi where it actually snowed 7 gazillion times. And I remember it because I worked for the school district, and it felt like we were out of school 20 days in a row. It was something really weird. But it was sleety and snowy and gross. And my husband was out running errands here in town, and he happened across a man who was walking down the side of the road. And I remember my husband is Vance, and he came home and he said, Kim, you're really not going to believe what happened. But there was this guy walking down the road, and I could tell that he needed help. And so I stopped and I picked him up, and he just needed a ride to work. But on that ride to work, he was telling me his story. And Vance relayed to me that this man in my community, right around the corner from where I lived, was living in a mini storage unit. A mini storage unit that was the smallest one known to man, smaller than my closet in my home. And I don't know if you've been in a mini storage unit, but they don't have heat and air.
I was just going to ask that.
There's none of that, no light.
And no power outlet.
No power.
Yeah.
His heat and his light was a candle, no joke. So he was living in that mini storage unit, but the neat thing was he was walking from that storage unit to work. And he worked at a little blue house, the little blue house you're sitting in right now, as a dishwasher for the Blue Days Bistro, which was the restaurant that used to be here. And Vance told me that whole story, and I just remember for the first time caring about somebody I'd never met. It washed over me that it was wrong for somebody in my community to not have what they needed. It really, I can't even describe, that night, I was disturbed by all of that. And so I'm a problem solver. if you spend much time with me, if there's a problem, I am okay, how do we fix it? And how do we fix it fast? And I love people. I've always loved people. And the next day, or within the next few days, I called my husband and said, okay, we're going to lunch at the Blue Days Bistro, and we are going to meet this man, Mr. Larry, and we're going to see how we can get in touch with him. And I can't remember if it was the next day or a couple of days later, but very quickly in there. And we did. We came to lunch, and I drove my server crazy asking about Larry. I know she thought I'd lost my complete ever-loving mind because I was not concerned about lunch. I was concerned about getting to the guy in the kitchen. And what's neat about this is that my husband's heart has always been for the marginalized. I was the slow one in this process. Right. He has always been the guy who picks up hitchhikers and strangers and does whatever. I've been a little less willing to leap out. But we came to lunch that day, and I went back to the kitchen and said, hey, Larry, what time do you get off? And we invited him to supper at our house. And I really thought that there was no way in the world that he would ever come to dinner, but he did. We picked him up that afternoon. He sat down for dinner in our home. And that night, Larry shared his story of everything that had happened to him, and my heart broke. He was a 50, I think he was 54 at the time, 54-year-old black man in Mississippi who had lived through some of the less than beautiful times in Mississippi, and he had endured racism and just some horrible things that we don't like to confront as Mississippians sometimes. And he shared his story, and I remember sitting there and just glancing across the table at my husband, and we had a whole conversation with our eyes. Like, both of us knew that Larry wasn't just going to have dinner with us. Dinner ended, and then that night, it was cold outside, and there was no way that we were going to drop him off at a mini storage unit to sleep. So we invited him to spend the night in our home, and he did. I do not know why, because we were clearly crazy. But the next day, it was still cold, and he still needed a place to stay, so he stayed, and then he stayed again, and then he stayed again. And Larry lived with us for about a year, and we watched his whole countenance change. We watched his posture change. We watched everything in his life change when he was loved by a family. And Larry is still very much a part of our family. And through that process, I knew that I was not supposed to be superintendent. I knew that I had a higher and more important calling on my life. So I felt very strongly the urge to make a larger difference in our community. And so I quit my job, and we began a homeless ministry called LoveWorks 2540. And what's neat about that is that over the course of that year with Larry, we got introduced to more of his friends. And he would bring more and more people into our circle who needed help. And it just was a natural overflow. It just, this accidental ministry started. And I began to realize that though education is really important, loving people was more fulfilling for me.
Your prayers were answered.
Yeah, right? For sure.
So it was probably like a slap across the face, like, yes. Oh, I heard you.
Yeah.
This is it. Now, what year did you first meet Larry?
Oh, my word.
When the story with your husband?
This was probably 11 years ago. Okay. So whatever that would be, 2011 maybe.
So that would make Larry in his mid-60s now?
Yeah.
What's Larry's life like now?
Larry, my husband still, talks to him at least twice a week. Larry is actually working right down the street here at the seafood place, my word, I've forgotten the name of it.
Parish?
The Parish. He is at the Parish, and he is living independently on his own. He actually has a roommate, very much still a part of our family and
awesome.
Part of our lives. You know, like for years, Larry did Christmas with us, and drove to Grenada with our family. He's his very first birthday party he ever had was at our house.
His first birthday party?
He had never...
In his mid-50s.
He cried that day because he had never had a birthday cake and never had a birthday celebration. He just grew up in poverty.
Wow. It's those little things you don't think about.
Oh, it was insane.
Wow.
Which is why this place is so special to me. This is where I remember putting my first yes to the Lord on the table right over there in this house. And so years later, when the opportunity to buy this place came, we were like, this is where we first said yes. Why would we not say yes again? I'm ill-equipped to do homeless ministry. I'm ill-equipped to do anything, but, I said yes once and it worked out. So, let's say yes again and try it.
Talk about full circle.
Yes.
And the connection you have with this building.
Absolutely.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, we love it. We love it.
That's great. So let's learn more about your mission. What was the name of it again?
Love Works 2540.
Yeah. So is that just a group? Does it actually have an office?
I am the office. My husband and I run it. It is a 501c3, but our heart is not typical homeless ministry. We learned with Larry that what people need is to be seen, to be heard, to be supported, and to be loved. So love works. Yeah. So we saw that happen with Larry. So we're not a blanket and sandwich ministry. We're long-term ministry. So what I mean by that is if somebody comes to us needing help, they're homeless for whatever reason, we work with them on a long-term process to ultimately get them, number one, off the streets. Number two, take care of whatever those needs are, like those immediate needs, whether it's you've got some legal things that need to be shored up, or you've lost your birth certificate and social security card, whatever those things are.
What about health problems too,
Absolutely.
right?
Health. And there are so many resources here with the DeSoto Dream Center. And just, yes, we work with other agencies to try to take care of all those things. We get them off the street first, whether that means they come into my home or we put them in a hotel room. And we have a great relationship with the hotels here, so we put people in long-term hotel rooms. Then the next step is to get them gainfully employed, which is where this business comes into play. Before we had this business, we would just search for opportunities and find friends and partners here in Hernando to help people find a job, because often when you're coming off the streets, you might not have the best work history. You might even have some things that would be a red flag for an employer.
Yeah. Legal issues.
Yes, that would be barriers for employment. And we need a second chance. Like, people need second chances. And people need 45th chances, And so that was what we did. We would get you off the streets. We would take care of your legal issues, health issues. We would get you gainfully employed. Then as you are gainfully employed, we would walk through that with you to teach you how to manage your finances, to pay your bills, to budget your money, and then get you into long-term housing. And then once we got you into long-term housing, we would work with the community, get it fully furnished, and then begin a process called a gradual release of responsibility, where we help you with your bills the first month, the second month, and up to a year, and get you on your feet. And then the goal is to live life with people, to actually invest in people, to care compassionately through the journey, to support you. And my ultimate goal is to point people to Christ. Now, if you accept Christ or not, that's your business, but I gotta tell you about the guy who changed my life, and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. And so that was our model, and that's kind of how we got here,
Let's talk about that then.
Yeah.
How did that bridge to City Hall Cheesecake?
Yeah, so I have no restaurant experience, no business experience. My background is education. My other background is Jesus. That's it. That's all I got. That's all I can bring to the table is I can diagram a sentence and I can point you to scripture. Like, those are the things that I can do. And so, through the years, one of our biggest battles with people in ministry was finding employment. There are jobs to be had. They just might not be perfect for somebody who might only be able to work for you for 6 months or maybe just for a few weeks, because sometimes in our ministry people are there for 8 years, and sometimes they're only there for a few months until they get back to wherever home is. So we needed some flexible employment. And though there are very many gracious businesses here in Hernando, that's not always a great fit, to have somebody who might need a little extra care and attention along the way. So my husband is an attorney, and he had a client who happened to be the owner of City Hall Cheesecake, and he heard that they were, Tom Frayne is who owned it. He bought it from the original owners.
And it was in this location?
He moved it to this location.
Okay.
Yeah. When City Hall started, it was actually in the old City Hall building in downtown Hernando, which is where it got City Hall Cheesecake from, because it was the old City Hall.
Makes sense.
And so when Tom bought it, he moved it here to grow and expand the business, and he did a fantastic job with it. But he was ready to sell after a few years, and my husband heard it. And Vance came home and joked. Like legitimately joked. At this time, I have 6 children, so I had 6 kids. One of them was very young, and we had an elderly lady living with us at home. She was in her 90s. So it was a crazy time.
Wow.
So I had 10 people living in my home under my care. Ministry is going like crazy. I mean, it was just a very busy time, and Vance came home and he said, City Hall's up for sale. We should buy it. And I laughed because I thought it was ridiculous. But then I laughed. My husband's a dreamer as well. And I laughed and I thought, wait a minute, maybe we could buy it for one of the kids. We do have a whole herd of children. We could buy it for one of the kids. And
a gaggle of children.
A gaggle of children. Maybe we could set them up with a business. And then I thought, well, no.
So this is totally from left field, though, right?
You
guys were never just hinting, hey, maybe we should start a business. Was there any discussion like that? It was just, hey, we should buy this business.
Well, we knew that we needed something.
Okay.
But, our options are, my husband is an attorney and I was a former educator. So either employ people in a law practice or start a school and employ people. None of those are feasible for the people we were trying to employ. So it just seemed so far-fetched. And, he mentioned, maybe we should buy it. And we talked about it, teetered on it, and then we're like, nah. A few months later, it's still for sale. He brings it up again. And that time we came and we sat right here in this room, and we met with Tom, and it became very real because we were sitting in the place where we said yes the first time. And there was something that happened as Tom walked us through this building, just kind of showing us about City Hall. He walked us back to the kitchen, and I stood in that doorway, and I remembered the first time I stood in that doorway. I remembered inviting Larry to our home.
Yeah.
I remembered the yes. And overwhelmingly, I knew we were supposed to buy it. I knew it. And it seemed ridiculous because I had never made a cheesecake before we bought this place. I have no restaurant experience. I knew that if we bought this place, this was going to have to be my baby. My husband's an attorney. Like, he can't litigate and make cheesecake all in the same day. So I knew that this was going to have to be my
and
thing.
let's not forget the herd of children.
Yes. Oh,
so now you're adding one other thing.
Yes. Another thing. So 6 kids, an elderly woman, a ministry, and a business. And it seemed like the dumbest thing that we could ever do. But sometimes in those things where we know we're not strong enough, we give the Lord an opportunity to provide the strength that we need. Mm-hmm. And I knew that if it was going to be successful, it was going to have to be God. And that I could ask Him to provide what I needed, and every single step along the way, God has provided for every one of our needs. We have so many stories of what God has done in this place because it's not us. There's nobody in this building who's making it work. It's truly the Lord.
So what year was that when you took over?
We are in the 4th year, so I think it was 2018 I think it was 2018 when we bought the business and transitioned. And honestly, the first couple of weeks I was here with Tom, he so graciously knew that I was going to need a lot of help. So for the first month, Tom, stayed here with me and showed me the ropes. And the first 2 weeks, it was just the basics of like, here's how this machine works. Here's how the register works. You should probably have a business bank account. Like all these things that were just foreign to me.
Yeah.
And after we had owned it for 2 weeks, Tom finally was like, you're going to have to make a cheesecake, because you're going to have to cook it. At first, I was the baker, which is absurd.
So now you're learning how to make cheesecake.
Yes. Yeah.
Were you falling off some of his ingredients? Were you trying to carry through, or you're starting that from scratch as well?
Listen to me. I would never change Diane Bishop's recipe for this cheesecake. Never. Now, what we have done when we bought the business, I think they had about 40 different flavors, and we have expanded up to about 110 different flavors. Now, we love to play with flavors, but the core recipe will not change because it is phenomenal.
Agreed.
Yes, we would not change that. Yeah. And so I'm so blessed that I was able to step into an already streamlined process and then just kind of take it and grow it.
So in 4 years now, you said there's so many stories. What's a story that really sticks out to you?
Oh, my word. I can remember early on, we had been open a few months under my leadership, and I was here on a Saturday by myself that Saturday morning. I'd come in, I was baking that morning, the shop was open, we were stupid busy. It was just like every time I turned around, there were just more people, which thank you, Lord, for that, but just so crazy busy, and I needed another person. And I remember going like in between customers, just like going back to the prep area and going, Lord, you have got to bring me somebody, like somebody fast. I've got to have another person here. I don't have time to interview anybody. God, please just bring me somebody. I'm not lying. Within probably 20 minutes, a girl pulled up into our parking lot with her resume, and she walked in, and there was nobody else in the shop. She walked in and she was like, hey, are y'all hiring? And I started crying immediately, like a lunatic, started crying. And I was like, yes, of course we are. And
hired.
You are hired on the spot. I literally said, I don't care. You are hired. And she said, I'm moving here from Oxford. I'll be here in the next week or so. I don't know what drew me here. I just kind of saw it and thought I should stop. And I have my resume here. I was like, I don't care what's on your resume. You are hired. And that was Shelby. She was one of our first bakers. She moved to Austin, Texas, just probably 3 months ago now. Shelby is the one who did all the artwork here.
Nice.
She is an artist. She is fantastic. She grew from just working front of house to then working prep to she was our lead baker for 2 years. She was fantastic, but it was so neat because Shelby came in needing community and needing encouragement and needing a support system, and we got to be that. And it was so neat to watch her grow in her faith and grow spiritually and grow just in her confidence. She is a force to be reckoned with now, and she came in so timid and so shy, and it's just unbelievable. But stuff like that happens all the time.
She just walks in.
Walks in with a resident. Who does that on a Saturday? Who does it? But it was we see that happen. And, now we partner with Precious in Pink, which is another ministry here in town. It's a ministry for women who are coming out of maybe prison or jail or drug rehab, and it's a housing program for them. But we employ their girls. If they need a job, they come to us and they work for us. And that has been such a beautiful thing because we get to be a part of building community for them as well. And they are spectacular humans who just need a second chance, and we get to do that kind of stuff. And that's the real sweetness here.
Yeah, it's inspiring to hear your story.
It's cool. It's not mine. The Lord wrote it.
Right,
I'm telling you, this was not my 5-year plan.
I did not want to own a bakery, let alone 3 of them. I did not want to make cheesecake. I mean, I didn't want to do any of this. It just, and the more you know me, the more astounded you will be that this is successful. Because it's like, how in the world is this working? It's how does this work? But it does.
Well, was there a period in this 4-year journey where you could sit back a little bit and be like, okay, I think I know how to run a business now?
No.
Or are you still just learning and,
No.
and just kind of going with the flow?
No, I still don't have a clue. Like you have to put this all in perspective. So we get the business, we find a rhythm, we are growing. We have a franchise that had opened up in Oxford. One of our girls who worked for us decided she wanted to take it to Oxford, so that was originally a franchise. And then we decided we would open up in Silo, and then there was a global pandemic.
Yeah.
In the middle of all of that.
Oh, so that expansion happened just before the shutdown?
Oh, yes. We opened in the middle of a pandemic out at Silo.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're successful in spite of us. It just unbelievable. I mean, it's just unbelievable how our community has rallied around us. When we host adoption events, that's one of the things we're passionate about, is helping families fund their adoptions. Adoption is important to our community. It's important to followers of Christ. It's just important, period. And we want to support people who want to adopt. So we do adoption fundraisers for families in our community. They can apply and we help them raise money. And when we do events like that, our community shows up. I cannot even tell you the thousands of dollars that we have been able to hand to families so that they can fund their adoption. Our community is incredible. The love that DeSoto County has for DeSoto County businesses is unparalleled. It is beautiful and heartwarming and humbling. It's just, we're so privileged to be a part of this area. It's unreal.
And in my opinion, Hernando is the heart of that.
Oh, for
agree?
sure. Yes.
And I'm relatively the new guy here. My story is I a house musician at a church here at Christ Covenant Church on Thousand Oaks. For several years, I was coming here every other Sunday. I'm a bass player, and I was trading Sundays with another bass player. And that's what kind of introduced Hernando to me on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah.
To the point where I was like, I want to live here.
Yeah.
Well, it took a little while for me to be able to build to the point where I could.
Yeah.
And moved here last year, so it's
welcome.
It's great to be here, and it is different when you finally live there. I mean, I lived in Memphis. I lived in Olive Branch. It's not like I moved 100 miles to get to Hernando, but even a community that might be 20 minutes from you, you end up not going there as much. You know, you hang out where you live. So moving here has been just astounding to me, and this podcast is what's helping me meet people like yourself, and all these other amazing people in the community, and hearing it firsthand. The consistency. Everyone says, like, yes, this is the place. Everyone's so helpful.
I say that Hernando's like the last Mayberry. It really is. There's such a strong sense of community. From the parades, the homecoming parades, to the 4th of July parade, you see our community put their kids on their bikes for the 4th of July parade, and just the way everybody shows up for everybody. That is uncommon in our culture today. But Hernando has somehow made that stay. The farmer's market, like, you can't even go to the farmer's market without seeing all of your neighbors and visiting with everybody, and a fair.
Or seeing a teacher.
Yes.
You're seeing your child's teacher. Yes. Oh, you sell pumpkins?
Yes, it is unreal. And there's something so wholesome about it.
Yeah.
It's real, just the community aspect is so real, which makes this fun. It's fun to own a business in a community that is so kind. It really is fun.
Well, it seems like you're probably at the top of the kindness level here.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Talk to my team members. There is a standard of excellence, but we love big. We really do.
Well, Well, when you say we love big, let's go to the 10,000-foot view and more on the business front here. Where do you see City Hall Cheesecake? Obviously, gosh, you've expanded. Yeah. You mentioned that Oxford is a franchisee.
It was. So originally, Rachel, who used to work for me, decided she was moving to Oxford and she wanted to open a franchise there. She loved kind of the mission of the business. Like, we are a ministry first and a business second. Like, my heart is to invest in the people who work here and then invest in our community through the business. That's it. We are, the financial gain is a blessing. It's not the purpose. So she loved that idea and wanted to open in Oxford and did. And was successful, but then had major health issues that prevented her from running the business. So last year, I bought that business back from her, and now I run that Oxford location as well. Elizabeth is our store manager there, and she's fantastic. But it has the same heart and the same mission and the same ministry there in Oxford. So it just allowed us to, branch out a little more.
And South Haven was after Oxford or in between?
South Haven was kind of in the middle of all of that. Yeah.
So where do you see a location in Olive Branch? Where do you see this going for you?
I would love to be in Olive Branch. I would love to ultimately, maybe tiptoe across the state line and do some work in Memphis. I know that there are huge needs in Memphis. Honestly, though, it's a little scary because I think, okay, there's only one of me, and how much more can we get done? But the incredible thing that I'm very gifted at, I hire people smarter than I am and people who are way more equipped to get the job done. There's not anybody here who couldn't go and run any store anywhere. So I trust that the Lord will give me who I need if the time arises.
You have my same battle cry. I say it to my team all the time. I want to be the dumbest guy in the room.
Absolutely. And I'm always the dumbest girl. Yeah. Well, congratulations.
I succeeded, right?
Yeah.
But it's so true. If you find someone that you can trust that really excels in that area, let go and let them do their thing, because it's only going to be awesome. If you give them the sense of ownership too, then they're in.
Well, we work really hard to help people to empower them to use the gifts that they've been given. So we talk all the time about using the gifts that you've been given to glorify the Lord and to serve others. That's it. Every single person is gifted. And I think that's a message that people don't hear very often. We, as a culture, we're kind of mean to each other, and we forget to lift people up and go, no, you're really great at this. Like, this is where you're gifted. And so, Lori is our store manager, and she is phenomenal. But I remember when she came, she was going through a really hard time in her life, and she came and started working for us and had zero confidence, was always just so unsure of herself. And to watch her over this last season here grow from somebody who cried because she was worried that the cake wasn't pretty enough or that she had done something wrong to literally being over all of the shops. She is the point person for every single one of our store managers. She runs it all, and she is magnificent.
And that takes confidence, doesn't it?
Yes, she has grown in her confidence, and she's amazing. Yeah. But it's been beautiful to watch that happen, to just watch her succeed. It's been beautiful.
It's such a compelling story. I wish I could put it into words. The story I just got from you, but it seems like that common thread is you, as a human, just want to nurture and just help people.
Yeah.
But it's different than just do you need a hand?
Yeah.
It's long term, like you said.
Yeah.
You're helping people grow in their life and have hope. That's just amazing to me. So thank you for what you do.
You're welcome. It's my joy. It really is.
And leading into this interview, I would mention your name, I'm going to be talking to Kim Daly, and they're all like, "Whoa, she's got a story," and they weren't lying. So.
No, it's crazy. And just saying that one yes to Larry introduced me to so many people in our community I would have never had the privilege of meeting, including the birth mother of my 3 adopted children.
Oh, there you go.
Incredible. Like, it's you never know the power of one compassionate yes and the blessings that will come after it. Like, I didn't know that inviting a man to dinner was literally going to change the rest of my life, but it did.
Totally.
I mean, completely changed the trajectory of my life. And I wouldn't go back and undo that for anything.
You must still have moments where you sit back and think, how did this happen?
Yes.
How and what happened?
Every day of my life, you know, and I get so overwhelmed sometimes just because sometimes I forget and I try to do all the things and then I remember, oh wait, I don't have to be the person who tries to do it. Like, my job is to love people and serve people well and find the people who can do those things and empower them to get it done. It's been fun. It's been fun.
And I have a feeling there's many more years to come.
I hope
right?
so. I hope so, yeah.
Well, before we wrap this up, let's talk about where people can find you and your mission and you know, all your groups and everything. So
so gosh, I'm always here. But you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook at City Hall Cheesecake and on Instagram, City Hall Cheesecake and City Hall Cheesecake Oxford. Our ministry is LoveWorks 2540. You can, our phone rings at the Cheesecake Shop all the time for people needing help. The churches in our area all have our contact information, so that's easy to find. And then, I guess, call us. Yeah.
Do you want to give your phone number?
Not really out here, but people, you can call the shop. Yeah.
Hey, the mayor posts his phone number.
I know,
right?
but I'm not the mayor. But he is spectacular, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean,
He might be
really
on the podcast soon.
Yeah, he should be. Oh, he's such a great story. He's our farmer's market. He's the reason Hernando is Hernando. I just love him. He's so good.
What's funny is timeline-wise, you know, by now anyone watching or listening to this has already seen his episode.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Okay. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
doing this with me today. It was just so great to get your story, and I can't wait to share it. And you know, people will, whoever may not know you, will definitely know you.
That's so cool. That's
So-
cool. Well, I love the whole premise of this podcast. Like,
Well,
really,
thank you.
what a beautiful heart for our city. And you really are going to fall more. The more you hear the stories, the more you will just be blown away. I mean, just.
My first interview was with Kim and Karen, Steve and Karen Cubbage at Area 51 Ice Cream.
Yeah, they're so fun.
And I knew this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I knew, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. But,
Yeah.
well, let's wrap it up with this here, Kim.
Yeah.
So we're gonna ask the audience to help.
Okay.
All right, and gosh, you're the one helping everybody, but let's help Kim by sharing this episode.
Yeah, for sure. Please share it.
And there's no better way to support this podcast than by sharing.
Yes.
Go to our website, therealhernando.com, grab the link for the episode, plaster it everywhere in your socials, email it to a friend, sign up to our newsletter. All that is just asking for an email, and you'll get the new episodes as they publish.
Yeah.
It's just like we're hand delivering it to you, to your front door. That's all that email is going to get. And we're not going to spam you or anything.
Good.
Find our socials, Facebook and Instagram at The Real Hernando. Like a post, share a post, throw it in your stories.
Yeah.
Anything you do, comment, tag Kim in your comment.
Sure.
This can do great things for the podcast, but ultimately for my guests.
Yeah, for
And-
sure.
And spreading the word of the community and the whole purpose behind this. So you can find us on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Audible, YouTube. We're plastered in all the major places. So share is the best way
Wonderful.
I can ask for your help to support this podcast, support City Hall Cheesecake, and support Kim Daly. So
Thank you.
thank you for being here.
Oh, my word. It was a pleasure.